Well, hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. I'm getting set for Mike in the Midwest. Oh, the places we'll go. We'll talk about that. One of the things I got over on the Discord Patreon to talk about this week. So let's do it. Get my shirt straight. Hope everybody's doing well. Here we go. Welcome to episode number 30 of Mike in the Midwest, a mini podcast for the awesome, incredible, unbelievable patrons of the Be Our Guest podcast. Thank you so much. That is you. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you so very much supporting us here on the show while times of travel are down a little bit. But hey, things are looking better. We're in a new year, and I do believe that 2021 will be great. We just got to get through these first couple of months, get everything settled. We're on the right track. We just got to get the logistics of things worked out, and I think 2021 is going to be an awesome year, especially this summer and moving forward. How are you doing? I hope you're having a great start to 2021. We're kind of settling in here to the middle of January already. It's incredible how quickly time has gone by and how slowly time has gone by at the same time. But the one thing I love about the struggles we've gone through since last March is that I believe our podcast community, our podcast group has really tightened up. We've come together. We had those live call-in shows in the spring and the summer, and those really meant a lot to me, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed those as well. And we've continued the call-in shows every Sunday night. I love those, and I hope you will spread the word about those. And if you can, drop in for that 1 hour every week, where instead of just Pam, Ricky, and I talking with you and, you listening through the podcast, we get an opportunity to all come together and talk and, take calls and make it a two-way street. So do join us this Sunday night at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. We're going to talk about the Magical Express announcement that's going away in 2022, but we could talk about anything else you like, but I have a feeling that's going to dominate the conversation, which it should probably. So we'll talk about that this Sunday night. Hope you can call in and join the conversation. Let's recap what last week we talked about here on Mike in the Midwest. I kind of gave a recap of what I was missing from Marathon Weekend 2021, which obviously did not happen this year. It did happen virtually, but I missed the in-person race experiences. So I kind of recapped what Adobe was like, what my thought process was, the things I really miss about the experience. And we did get some feedback over on patreon.com/BeOurGuestPodcast. Josh Bennett, thank you so much, Josh, for being a patron. He said, great recap, Mike. My love for both Disney and running came at the same time. In 2016, it was me and my wife's first time visiting Disney, and it happened to be Marathon Weekend. Sunday was our Epcot day, and while watching all the runners finish up, I told my wife, we're coming back next year, and I'm running the marathon. I now have 2 Run Disney marathons, several other races, and I'm only about 10 minutes away for qualifying for Boston. We have been to Disney every year since that initial trip, and I relate to parts of every park to the race. Hopefully next year we'll be running again. Thanks, Josh from Lake Charles, Louisiana. Well, first of all, Josh, you are fast. If you don't know, to qualify for Boston, you got to be hauling rear. You got to be moving. I can't even dream about doing that. I do a lot of miles, but I'm not fast. So, Josh, I hope that you do get to run Boston someday. I've always heard that is a life-changing experience. I'm registered for Chicago this year. I was registered last year. You don't have to qualify for that. I just got in a lottery and I was picked. But I am excited to get to run a major marathon outside of Disney. I don't know how that'll go, but I am excited for that. But Boston's a whole nother level. So I hope that you do, Josh, make Boston, and hope you tell me what it's like, because that would be awesome. You know what, too? I was in the same boat. I was down at Walt Disney World vacationing with just my wife and Paige. We weren't even married at the time. All-Star Music, I think, a long, long time ago, and it was over Marathon Weekend. The runners were checking in. I noticed all of a sudden people had on short shorts and everybody was wearing sneakers, and people had calves for days. Like the calves were like the size of tree trunks. I was like, something's going on here. And then we heard that there's a race, and stupid me, I was like, oh, well, yeah, I should sign up and do that race. I didn't know you couldn't sign up on site, but I told myself, I'm going to look into that. And so I got home and looked into it. And that's when I kind of found podcasts, and I heard about Marathon Weekend. So a couple years later, no training. I did sign up for the half marathon, ran it, struggled. The real struggle was driving home for 14 hours after the race, but I did make it. It was tough getting gas though. I could barely get out of my car. So yeah, I've kind of gone the other way. I like to train. I like to make sure I'm prepared for the races. Carrie Good. How you doing, Carrie? Thanks for the recap, Mike. I did Goofy in 2018 and Dopey in 2020. You almost make me want to do Dopey again. Almost. I get it. I will definitely run the half marathon again at some point. Good luck to all the runners getting the races in virtually this weekend. So we had a lot of lizards. I got to give a shout out to my lizards because they're my family. They get me. They're the runners. We're all crazy like that. I know a lot of folks were running around the Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club. A lot of folks were running over at the Riviera and the Caribbean Beach. A lot of folks were running over at Pop Century and Art of Animation around Hourglass Lake. I just got an email from somebody yesterday. He ran 50 miles around Hourglass Lake last weekend. 50 miles around Hourglass Lake. I told him he's got to have those little trivia facts memorized, right? What year was the arch made? How much did the hula hoop cost? How many people ran that first the New York Marathon around Central Park? All those signs are there at Pop Century. I hope you know the answers. Heather Hayden, how's it going, Heather? Thanks for being a patron. My first Run Disney event was the half at Wine and Dine 2017, and I was scared of being swept, so I skipped the character stops. But the very best meet and greet was when I bumped into the awesome Captain Mike Bankhead in Pandora. Yes, we've heard time and time again on the Run Disney surveys that Mike Bankhead is the character just under Mickey Mouse, number 2. It goes Mickey Mouse, Mike Bankhead, and then Goofy. What's that say? But we do love meeting Captain Mike. He got this all together for us, and we are eternally grateful to have somebody like Mike keeping us on the straight and narrow and keeping us moving. We love Mike. Let's see. Also, a couple other comments. Adam Holt. Hey, Adam. He's here in St. Louis, I believe. Thanks for being a patron. Thanks, Mike. It was great. Sad we couldn't be running this year. Totally agree. I believe Adam and I ran a race in St. Louis in March together here. If that was the Adam I'm thinking of, at Creve Coeur Park. My PR too, by the way, which I don't get to use because now I don't have any races to run. And then Megan Green says, this is awesome to look back in a marathon weekend. Thanks so much. Let's hope we're all back to the in-person racing here sooner rather than later. Crossing my fingers for everybody for Wine and Dine, but especially Marathon Weekend 2022. Let's do it in 22. All right. So the topic for today that folks brought up over on the Be Our Guest Podcast patron Discord. And again, if you're a patron, come on over and enjoy the conversation on the Discord channel. It's just like a live chat room. I've been using it more lately because I finally got a new laptop that makes it easier to type. So I'm on there a lot more, and it's fun having the conversations about whatever, Magical Express, the 30-minute extra head start for on-site guests, that kind of stuff, and just stuff in general. I was talking hockey last night. But it's fun. So drop by the Patreon server if you need the link. Just send me an email, mike@beourguestpodcast.com. I'll give you the link. It's a piece of cake. But what everybody wanted to talk about was where I want to travel to. If I could pick, places to travel, both inside the Disney bubble, but outside Disney, where would I go? And I think that's an interesting conversation and an interesting thought. I think we all have these kind of thought processes. Of course, you listen to the Be Our Guest podcast. You're a big Disney fan. We all like going to Walt Disney World. We want to stay in all the hotels. We want to make sure that we do I want to do all the tours at Walt Disney World. I want to stay in all the hotels. I think the only hotel I haven't stayed in right now is the Contemporary. I've never stayed there. I've never camped at Fort Wilderness. I don't know if my wife would like that. I've never stayed in a cabin over there either, and they intrigue me, but there's no food court. So I don't know. Trying to think. I've stayed at Art Pop. I've stayed at all 3 All Stars. I've stayed at Moderates. I've stayed at Beach, Yacht, Boardwalk. What am I missing? I've stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge, Wilderness Lodge. I've now stayed at the Riviera because of Scott. I got to stay with him one night. I've stayed at Saratoga. I've stayed in the Treehouse. So I've stayed at most places at Walt Disney World. So Contemporary is probably high on the list. Now, as far as places I'd like to go, let's start off inside the Disney bubble. Number 1 is Disneyland. Obviously, you guys know I've talked about this for years. I still have not been to Disneyland. I need to get out there just for the fact that I'm a Disney nut. I'm a Walt Disney fan about the man, right? Because he was in Marceline, Missouri. I've gone to Marceline. I've stayed in the Uptown Theater. It's a bed and breakfast. I got to spend the night in the theater up on the top floor. Got to mess with the projector that was actually the same projector Walt used to show a movie in the 60s. It's an old projector. They actually let us touch it and manipulate it and everything. I was like, this should be behind glass, but they let us. Got to go to the Family Museum in Marceline, which is awesome. Got to talk with a lady who's in charge of the museum, who Walt Disney stayed in her bedroom when she was a kid, when they came back to Marceline. So that was cool, because they were the only house in town that had air conditioning. So in her room was air conditioned. So Walt stayed in her pink room. I thought that was super funny. But yeah, so Disneyland's top of the list. Now, the one thing I really want to do, and I've said this for years to my wife, when I retire and she retires, and we actually have a little bit of time to actually do something, not over the summer like we've always had to do our entire lives since we were both in education. I would love to do a Panama Canal cruise on the Disney Cruise Line. So I'd love to, whether it's the Wonder, which it usually is, but who knows in a few years what ship it might be. I would like to take that long cruise through the Panama Canal. One, because I just love cruising with Disney Cruise Line. I love the ships. I love the cast members. I love the programming on the ships. I just like what it's all about. I love the feel of being on a Disney Cruise Line ship. Call me crazy, but I miss the deck, the outside deck, like deck 11 on Dream and Fantasy, deck 9 on the Magic and the Wonder. That rubbery floor that's kind of brown with the lines in it that looks like fake wood, and it leads you right to a pool or a funnel vision TV screen or the soda machine. I miss that stuff. I know it's stupid, right? That's what I miss about the cruise lines. Anyway, I'd love to do the Panama Canal cruise, because you're on the cruise ship for a long time. I want to do a super long cruise. I've done back-to-back cruises once when Mallory was little. We did a 5-night on the Dream, backed up with a 7-night on the Freedom of the Seas by Royal Caribbean. So we've done 12 nights at sea straight, which I loved. I loved every minute of it. So give me a longer cruise than that even. But also I think because I'm like a tech nut, I'm like a science nut, I would love to see the mechanics and the engineering of the Panama Canal. Like, to cut through an entire country, an isthmus, just cut it in half and make a little canal. That's amazing. And again, I'm from a landlocked place in Missouri. So we do have locks on the Mississippi in Alton, which is about 15 miles from where I live. So not too far away. There's a lock and dam system that moves barges up and down the river, but nothing like the Panama Canal. So that is very, very high on my list. I'd love to do a Panama Canal cruise. Now, another thing I would like to do that's high on my list, and this is another Disney thing, is Adventures by Disney offers river cruises in Europe. Now, river cruising is, I've never done it. Pam Forrester's told me about it a bunch of times. I've researched it. It's almost like the polar opposite of an ocean cruise liner. Like the ocean cruise liners are getting bigger and bigger. They're offering more programming. They have places for adults, places for kids, places for teens. They have nightclubs. They really kind of try to give everything. They have Irish bars. They have sports bars. They have different dining rooms with characters, and everything's themed and everything's got a specific role. So there's something for everybody on these mega ships. If you go on one of these European river cruises, you're on a very intimate ship that moves super slow. But the thing about it is you're moving right along the river. So you're very, very close to these small towns, in all these historic places are right outside your small balcony. So you're going past these places. It's not like you're out in the middle of the ocean where you can't see anything. So you're focused on what's going on the ship. You can sit there and read a book on your balcony, I would have history books probably about the places I'm passing. And I would be looking out there and enjoying these places that I've never been to. And the good news is they pull right into port. A lot of times the excursion for the day is part of the overall cruise experience. So you don't have to pay extra for that. You go into the town, you eat, you drink, you visit historic places, you get back on the boat, you float down the river and you go to the next place. But I would like that, it's very slow paced. I mean, my perspective of this is it's really for old people, but I think I have an old soul. And I'm a, person that can appreciate going slow and seeing stuff that's hundreds of years old and really kind of get the sense of history. And I think I would enjoy the opulence of the river cruise, boat itself. I mean, it's not going to be a junky boat. It's going to be very nice and opulent, but it's going to be a smaller crowd, not a lot of people, and very focused on you having a good experience. So someday I'd like to do that, maybe cruise Germany, something like that, see all those towns. Because my family is German. I've traced it back to a small town in Germany where my grandpa's dad came from, over in Germany. So that's kind of the 3 Disney things I like to do: Disneyland, Panama Canal cruise, Adventures by Disney river cruise. I'm kind of by the rivers, right? I like to be by the water, I guess. Now, some other places I would really, really like to go. So that kind of covered Europe. I'd love to go to Europe and check out because everybody's been to Europe but me, I feel like. Even Ricky's been to Disneyland Paris. So I need to make sure that I is somebody who is in education, who really like to teach the history to my students. I've read a ton of books. I've, done tons of research, but there's nothing like that firsthand experience of being there. when I taught sixth grade, we focused on ancient cultures. So we would do a unit on ancient Egyptian history and talk about the pyramids and, how their system of worship and, how they worship the sun and all these things and the pharaohs and how all that stuff was. I would love to get to Europe Northern Africa and see Egypt and see the Nile River and, take in the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids. That would be awesome. I would also, on those same lines, like to go to China and see the Great Wall of China, right? There's so much there. I love exploring the China Pavilion at Epcot. Back when they used to have the terracotta warriors, I know they weren't the real ones, but it was cool to see stuff like that. Like when you stop and really think about that, those terracotta warriors, the real ones that you would see in China, they were there when Columbus sailed. They were there when we had our Revolutionary War in 1776. They were there during World War II. All these things, they're so ancient and they're so special, but they've been there for so long that, the timeline looks different for history in China and history in Egypt than it does history in the United States of America. We think of the revolution in 76 when our country was founded as a long time ago. And it was, we're talking 200 plus years. That's a pretty decent amount of time. However, when you go to China and you go to, India, or you go to, places in Africa, especially the Middle East, the timeline is on a totally different scale. You're talking thousands of years. So I like to think about that, like, wow, like what was happening in the United States, or what was happening, because it wasn't the United States, and what was happening in North America when all these, emperors and these pharaohs were ruling in Egypt. What was going on? I like to kind of think about the cultures and what was happening. So I would love to visit those things and kind of take those things in. So yeah, I would like to do something like that. Now, I will tell you that a couple places that I've been here in the United States that I just think every American needs to go visit. And I have not gone these places with my wife and my kids yet. And partially, I think it's because I'm scared because of the Disney experiences we've had. Disney is so entertain you 24/7. Everything is, a beautiful version of some real thing somewhere. They're always catering to making sure you're having a good time. One of the places that I've gone and I went right out of college was I drove out to Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. And we stayed in West Yellowstone, Montana, in a little hotel. It wasn't very nice, but I will tell you, from somebody from Missouri, we have mountains here. Well, we don't have mountains. We have what are called the Ozarks down in Southwest Missouri. They're kind of rolling hills. But I will tell you, as we drove through Kansas, flat as a pancake, drove into Colorado, the first time that I saw the mountains in Denver as we were approaching, I thought the mountains were clouds. I didn't understand that those were rock, right? Because they're so magnificent. They're so on a scale that I had not understood in my entire life, that I didn't get that those were that big. The mountains, I'd seen them on maps and I taught about them, but I was like, holy smokes, those are huge. So yes, I did go to Yellowstone. We drove through Denver. We went to Rocky Mountain National Park. We went through Wyoming. We went to Jackson Hole. And we went into Yellowstone and spent a lot of time in Yellowstone. And the thing is, my perspective of Yellowstone before I went out there was that it's a park, because you hear Yellowstone National Park. When I think of a park, I think of, a big park in Missouri is Forest Park. That's kind of our urban park down in the city of St. Louis. It's probably about 5 minutes away from the Arch, maybe 10 minutes away from the Arch Drive. So it's just on the other side of downtown. And this park it's pretty big. It's got ballparks. It's got horse stables. It's got the St. Louis Zoo is in the park. It's got a lake. It's got the Muni, which is a municipal outdoor theater. I mean, it's got a lot of stuff and it's pretty big. But you can drive from one side of Forest Park to the other in like 10 minutes. I used to speed skate, and there was a path around the outside, and I'd skate the outside of the park. And I want to say it was about, if you skated the perimeter, it was about 17 miles, something like that. Now, I got out to Yellowstone and I did not understand that this park, to go from one side of the park to the other, is 5, 6, 7 hours drive. It's massive. But I will say that I do long to go back to Yellowstone, because the thing was, I truly think that it kind of changes you when you get out to Yellowstone and you see how beautiful the United States is, especially the Western United States. When you come across a herd of buffalo that are free roaming and you see them, and the buffalo, by the way, is my favorite wild animal in case it ever comes up in a trivia contest. When you see a herd of buffalo just out there in the plains, nothing, containing them, they can go where they want, or you see moose, we saw bear, then we saw like Old Faithful. We saw the geothermal features. We saw the bubbling, hot spots and stuff, the pots, whatever they're called. We walked on the boardwalks. We went to, we stayed, went to the Old Faithful Inn and went to the gift shop. But I mean, Yellowstone is immense, but it also contains some of the best things the United States has. To be able to see because what you're doing is you're looking back in time. When you see these wild buffalo and moose and bear and all these free range, deer just going wherever they want. That's what our country looked like hundreds of years ago. That's what North America was like. We don't have any of that left. We have very little of that left. So I enjoyed that immensely. And I also love seeing the geysers, right? Old Faithful. I mean, for most people that have never been there, your reference, if you're my age, of Old Faithful is some kind of cartoon, Bugs Bunny standing by Old Faithful. To be able to see it in person, it's incredible. Like it's unbelievable that our planet works like that there's heat down in the core coming up, it spouts out the hot water. It's unbelievable. Now, the last place I would like to go back to someday here in the United States is Yosemite National Park in California. I did go out there as well. This was another trip. We drove all the way out from St. Louis. We stopped in Vegas for a few nights. Vegas is interesting when you're a Baptist and you don't really get into gambling. I did gamble a little with some friends, but it was okay. I did enjoy Vegas for the opulence, the over the topness of the entire town. Like, I'm a tightwad, so I didn't spend a lot of money gambling, but I did enjoy going down the strip, watching the water fountains at the Bellagio. I think there was a hotel called Treasure Island. Excuse me. They had a pirate show out in front of their hotel every night. So we kind of watched that. Just walking through the casinos and really not gambling very much, maybe dropping a buck here and there, but just like seeing the theme of everything. We stayed at New York. There was a crazy roller coaster on the outside of the hotel, which we rode. We were across the street from the MGM. That place was enormous. It had a monorail in the back. It was just nuts. Everything was going all the time. It was crazy. So after about 2 or 3 days, you got to get out of Vegas. It's just constant stimulation. I mean, you think Disney's constant stimulation, Vegas is that on steroids. But got out to Yosemite National Park. And of course, the signature thing in Yosemite is El Capitan or Half Dome. And so we did hike Half Dome. Challenging. If you want a challenge in your life, hike Half Dome. It's super hard. Takes you all day. Pushes you to the limit. You see, El Capitan, people rappelling there, but also just kind of the things like Bridal Falls, seeing these waterfalls. Again, in St. Louis or in Missouri, we have waterfalls. They're like 10 feet tall, 15, 20, 30 feet tall. Bridal Falls was hundreds of feet tall. It was gorgeous, but not even that. It's just seeing the valleys, these places you can hike, and they're so natural. And then to see Half Dome up there and think about, what caused the erosion to make Half Dome look like what it is now? What did it look like at one point in history? What is the story of that rock? If you could go back and kind of watch in a fast forward kind of form, go back and see, okay, from the formation to what Half Dome looks like today, what's that look like? If we had a simulation of that, that kind of stuff really interests me. So I love this question over on the Discord, and I appreciate folks asking, because it is kind of fun to think about it. And I would challenge you to, as a Disney fan, and this is super hard, right? We do the same things year after year. We enjoy what we enjoy. I love going back to Walt Disney World, but I do kind of long to get out there and just slow down and do nothing at Yellowstone Park rather than just watch some buffalo go by. Now, that's the thing is, I don't know how my girls would like that. They would say it's boring. I don't think it's boring. I think it's pretty amazing, but it takes a different kind of thought process to go on a vacation like that, to drive halfway across the country. It's about a 15-hour drive. And then when you get to the park, you're driving all around the park hours on end to chase things down, especially at Yellowstone. So I don't know. So I want to hear your feedback. So in the comments below or over on the Discord, we can have this conversation even in real time. What do you think about these slower paced vacations of going to national parks in seeing natural wonders when you're a Disney fan? Because as Disney fans, we see the Disneyfied version of a lot of these things. We stay at Wilderness Lodge, and there's a geyser out by the pool, but it's not Old Faithful. It's very cool, but it's not Old Faithful. So what are your thoughts on this? Those are my things I would really like to do. I sure appreciate you guys asking, and I hope I gave some decent answers here, something to think about to kind of distract you here on a Thursday. But next week on Mike in the Midwest, it's going to be an Ask Mike Anything. It's going to be a collection of random questions. So ask those below as well. You can also email me, Ask Mike Anything, mike@beourguestpodcast.com, or just drop them in on the Discord server. I'll put a thread there too. So next week, Ask Mike Anything, all kinds of stuff, whatever you want to know. I will answer those for next Thursday. Again, thanks for being a patron. Hope you are having an awesome start to 2021. I sure appreciate each and every one of you. Hope you're enjoying the podcast this week. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about best benches at Walt Disney World. Going back to the bench guy from one of the planning videos. Best place to sit and just take it all in because we just need to chill after the Magical Express stuff. We need to relax. All right, you guys have a good Thursday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.